Hotel workers at Reddit, what's the craziest, weirdest thing you've discovered in a guest room? As the owner of a bed and breakfast place for the last 8 years, the craziest thing I ever found was an old battered notebook with "Why I Love Salad" written on the front and then literally 40-80 pages on why salad was amazing. There'd be the occasional suggestion that the author believed salad to be alive in some sense. Looked like it had been written on and off over the course of several years. I think that you should buy www.thisgualavesalad.com and upload the entire journal to it. For the sake of mankind. I had a guy who said his microwave didn't work and I went up to the room and he locked a plate of food in the safe. Well. Checked empty room left with doors wide open. On table was brown bag with over $20,000 cash. Tried to wake a guy up to check out. But he was dead. Basketball team used a toilet for communal poops. No flushing. All weekend. The entire toilet was encased in a mountain of poop. They must have had to stand on the ledge of the sink and lean over. Or straddle one foot on the bathtub and somehow not fall into it. It took devotion. Horrible and WTF at the same time. Ducklings. The guest said the mother had died and started looking after the ducklings herself. We found them in the lodge bathroom. After that they were kept in someone's office till the right people came to collect them. Who's the right people to come and collect ducklings? And how do I become one? There was this one guy who stayed at least one night every week and he always requested the same room. We thought he was maybe making drug deals or something, so we searched the room after he checked out one day. Turns out he was hiding a blow-up doll under the mattresses. We threw it away and he only came back once after that. I kinda felt bad for him. Throwing it away seems like a bad business decision. Life pro tip. Keep blow-up dolls in your car so that you can use the carpool lane. Also, fill them with gas so you never have to worry about running out of fuel. Cats. Cats everywhere. And a $100 tip with a "not that said. Thanks for taking care of these guys. Be back in a week." That pisses me off. One of my relatives worked in the hotel industry. There was a guest who just left. And when the cleaning ladies entered the room, one of them noticed a pungent smell. Went into the washroom and holy mother of God. Apparently someone stuffed a towel filled with poop down the toilet bowl. And the floor was covered with weird yellow stains. Holy shit. I can imagine they were pissed. I used to serve room service in a hotel that was near a major national hospital. And the two locations had reached some sort of business agreement where people going into surgery could stay at the hotel the nights before for a discount rate. During my 3 years there, we had about 6 guests die during the night while waiting for surgery. It was always handled in a really hush-hush manner. But it was always FK'd up to hear about. We also had a couple of PRN shoots go down in the guest rooms. Getting a room service request for 4 bottles of coffee and lots of wine at midnight was always a good sign that something sketchy was going on. As was opening the door to see filming lights and tripods. We had a swingers group stay at the hotel for a few nights. They had a rave going on up on the 2nd floor. There were naked people everywhere on the floors. Kids were freaked out by it. Other guests were complaining. On top of that, families could hear the couples running from rooms and constantly FKing. One guy had found out his wife was pregnant with another guy's child, so he decided to throw the TV out the window. It was complete chaos, and this is a FKing luxury hotel. Wife pregnant? Better throw the TV out of the window. I used to install flooring all over the place in various hotels. During one of the routine installations I had to move the bed. As soon as I moved it over, I saw it. A behemoth of a purple DLDO. Absolutely massive. We ended up jokingly chasing the owner of the hotel around for a bit with it held in some tongs before we tossed it. Not the ice tongs. No. I worked at a pretty crappy low budget 3-star hotel in Canada a year back. On my last month there, a guest came in to request to visit a potential room. Now, I didn't discover this myself. But I had no choice to afterwards. The guest comes back after the visit clearly pissed and leaves without saying anything. I go check the room afterwards only to discover a pillow head completely covered in human feces. Someone had wiped their ass. Hell. Even the room cleaning staff didn't notice it as it was clearly obviously found behind a chair. This was supposed to be a clean room ready to rent for the night. My boss has told me the story of a couple on their honeymoon. So we basically set out to try and get things our guests ask for, and these newlyweds wanted a chocolate fountain. Sure. My boss thought. Wouldn't be too much of a hassle, right? No. They had to search like hell to find one. Well, after the couple's stay they check out and don't really say much. When the maid is going to clean the room she basically goes in and starts laughing. My boss comes into the room too and there is chocolate f-king everywhere. You could see her cheeks in the bed and on the table and even in the roof. You could make out where they started and where they stopped. TL. DR. SX chocolate everywhere, even on the roof. Edit. I wouldn't even be mad after seeing it on the ceiling. That is just impressive. A man was having his house deloused and deep cleaned and wound up staying at the local Marriott that I worked for at the time. He was there for something like 30 days or so. Drunk off his ass and high on something the entire time. He never once let housekeeping in. After his departure, the cleaning staff finally entered the room. They were horrified not only by the stench of the place, but also by the utter wreck he left behind. Basically every single piece of furniture was severely damaged. The floor stained and greasy. The linens too far gone for further use. And rotten food everywhere. It took a week to get the room back in rotation. No wonder it took a month to get his house cleaned up and free of vermin. My friend's dad owns a few hotels. And he likes telling the story of one of them. Basically, there's a policy at all his hotels that if you piss the bed, your cute 50 will be added to your total bill to cover the cost of new sheets and the labor of the maids. So one time, this woman and her husband stay round. And when the maid goes to change their sheets one time, the bed is found to be soaking wet. So your cute 50 is added to their bill. And at the desk she asks about it. She's adamant that it wasn't piss. But won't tell the desk worker what it was. So my friend's dad gets involved. And demands to know what the liquid was. She finally gives in. And says my husband is a fantastic lover. And I had the biggest orgasm of my life. My friend's dad starts laughing. And a few minutes later adds it to the policy. So now at all his hotels, it'll cost you a cute 50 if you piss the bed or come so hard you ruin the sheets. I'd pay you a cute 50 to come so hard I ruined the sheets. I found cocaine on a table with some of it spilled into a beer bottle. The beer bottle was half empty. A pessimist. I see. Not me. But a mate of mine worked at an Ibis in Sydney, cheapish hotel brand in Australia. Unsure where else, as a temp cleaner. Not really disgusting or weird. But the residents had decided to cover the floor in the bathroom with mayonnaise. And the same with the mirrors. That wasn't mayonnaise. A dead guy. Happens more often than you would think. Some people will do anything to avoid the bill. I was a front desk agent while I'm in college. One of the housekeepers discovered a giant jug of lube, a two-headed black DLDO, and an assortment of bloody needles left scattered about the room. True story. After working at a hotel, I never use hotel bedding. In fact, if I'm at the beach I typically sleep outside on the balcony. Always check for bed bugs as soon as entering the room. If you pick up bed bugs and bring them home, it will cost you thousands to eradicate from your home. How does one check for bed bugs? I feel like this is actually vital information that I should know but don't. Not at my hotel. But one a friend of mine was managing a few years ago. A hostage. Guy and girl meet a drug dealer at his hotel room. The guy didn't have enough money or something. So the dealer tells him to go get it while the girl waits with him in the room. Apparently the guy bailed and ditched his girlfriend with the scumbag drug dealer. When it became clear that the guy was not going to come back, the drug dealer spent a few hours arping the girl. Security went to the room because of several noise complaints. The security guy knocked on the door and heard someone start yelling for help. He called for backup. While security was calling the cops, the drug dealer fled the scene. When the police showed up, they found some drugs, a big bag of sex toys, a gun in the room, and a severely battered and traumatized woman. This story is awful for so many reasons. Who brings a bag of sex toys to a drug deal? My friend said he found a crack pipe in the coffee maker. This was in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta, and I believe it. Can confirm. I love crack flavored coffee. Handled several addictions at once. Source: crackhead who loves a fine cup of joe. I work at a hotel in Ontario, and one of our housekeepers decided she needed to take a shitty while cleaning some guy's room. So of course, instead of using the employee washroom down the hall, she sat down and did her thing. The guest had forgot his briefcase and walked into the room to discover a 20-year-old girl taking a dump in his room with the door open. Man, if that was my room, I wouldn't tell on the maid. Everybody poops. A woman who was showering but got sick, food poisoning, and she went to throw up. While throwing up, naked, she then got the other part of food poisoning and sprayed tea all over the wall, floor, cabinets, and mirror. It was stomach churning but impressive. Additional info: the smell of this was horrid. I had to leave the room and come back twice because I needed to get some fresh air. When everything was wrapping up and security was just getting information for their report, we record anytime we have a medical problem at the hotel, I left. I pulled out my phone and called housekeeping right away and said we just had some lady go to the bathroom all over the bathroom. Send a few people out here with extra gloves, a bunch of sanitizer, and as much deodorizer spray they can find. A goat dressed like Abraham Lincoln. There's no more story here. At least none that I know. Working as a cleaner in a hotel. Went to clean a guest's room. Dreading it since they'd been there for a stag do. Found the goat. Don't know how it got there, or how it was removed, but it made a good story for a while. Lots of dildos, actually. But the weirdest thing we've seen go into a hotel room was a very skinny man with two very large, very obvious, prostitutes. I wondered how that turned out. Edit. My highest rated comment is about prostitutes. Thanks guys. I've posted this before, but a friend of mine worked in housekeeping. She called me up one day like, you have to see this. She's in one of the high-end suites. This was in a casino. Though for the super high rollers, the customer that had stayed was a regular. And she was a conservative older woman. Scattered among hundreds of empty Sunkist cans are dozens of dildos, empty tubes of lube, other various sex apparatus. No alcohol bottles. Not even the nips from the minibar had been touched. Just orange soda cans everywhere. So if anyone's seen a video along those lines, I'd love to see it. Are you talking about Kelders, Kansas? Or here it goes. I don't work at a hotel, but I used to work at a full body donation facility. Basically, when you donate your body to science and some med students or implant researchers need a human knee or head, they would call us. I did the actual dissections and some deliveries. Before I was hired, they made one explicit rule: no deliveries to hotels. I thought this very odd, so I asked. A few years back, a researcher asked us to deliver his frozen specimen to a hotel for a conference. We did so. No problem. What we didn't consider was that the researcher had decided the most efficient way to thaw a whole human torso would be to run a warm bath and let it soak. No arms. No legs. No head. Get the image? When he left the room, some unfortunate hotel worker comes to clean the room, sees this bloody human torso in the tub and calls the cops. The guy gets handcuffed and we are left explaining how we legally cut up dead people. The hotel worker, we heard, quite immediately. Hence, the rule. TL. DR. Don't thaw human torsos in hotel bathtubs. I was running cables in the ceiling of the hotel. I found some 80s PRNO mags and a countertop. I don't think I've found anything really. Besides lots and lots of alcohol bottles. Most people clean up well before they leave. However, a friend of a friend is a housekeeper. And once found a banana on the floor. With tea on it. Yeah. Chocolate covered banana. I was working at a luxury hotel and we had a fairly big name band staying with us. There were no noise complaints. And they seemed to be perfect tenants. When they left and we went to clean the room, every single piece of furniture was nailed to the ceiling in roughly the same configuration that it was in on the floor. I found it to be quite amusing. Management didn't. We had a guy that was active military that would stay often. He would leave his very large suitcase full of SX toys wide open on the bed for the maids to find while servicing his room. We eventually had to ask him to leave the property and not return after he pooped on our very white towels and promptly folded them and hung them so the poop didn't show. Not a hotel worker. But back in high school I was on a trip with my crew team of about 80. The guys decide that, since we have an entire floor of the hotel to ourselves, we're gonna line up all the mattresses in the hallway and IDK do something. It was high school. I'm just about to wrestle my mattress through the doorway when I hear the best combination of screams and laughter coming from a few doors down. Everyone simultaneously runs to the room and immediately books it out of there when they discover under my buddy's mattress was about an 18 cucumber covered in tea. Maids come. Sanitize the room. My buddy gets a new mattress. And according to them 2 construction workers had been staying in that room for 2 weeks prior. They must have been doing some important excavation work. Reminds me of that fairy tale Lisa the princess in the 18 cucumber covered in tea. My roommate works at a hotel where he found a towel with huge poop stains smeared all over it. He took it down to the manager's office, opened the door, and said, "Look at this tea." I had an Irish mate come running into the pub once, carrying dog tea in his hands, shouting, "Look what I almost stood in." Weirdest thing I ever found was a dead woman. She was anorexic and had taken too many laxatives. Her body was halfway to the bathroom. And there was a trail from the bed to her body. That was also the day I learned that apparently you can tea to death. My family is in the hotel business. One day a particular room just started to stink to high hell for no apparent reason. We checked everywhere multiple times looking for the source of the scent. No dice. We sprayed everything in the room numerous times with deodorizer to no avail. Left the room open daily for months to air it out without any change. Finally, we somehow tracked the smell to the table lamp. We were dumbfounded, asking ourselves how it could be emanating from there. Son of a bitch had broken the thing, put a fish in it, and glued it back together. My brother and I died laughing and actually applauded this guy's ingenuity. He got us good. And I ain't even mad at that. We had a SWAT training in town. And a lot of the officers stayed at our hotel. I got a call a day or 2 after everyone checked out. I worked the front desk. It was one of the officers. He told me he had made a huge mistake. And left his firearm, fully loaded, and another full magazine, on the top shelf of a closet in one of the rooms. I looked up what room he stayed in and got the gun. I had to leave it in my manager's office for her to deal with the next day. I guess she shipped it back to him. Very irresponsible. Andre the Giant was in town. Got drunk in hotel nightclub. Tea in his bed. One of the housekeepers at the hotel I used to work at found the remains of a DLDO. It had fallen and got stuck on a baseboard heater. And the guests must have forgot about it. It melted onto the heater. Maintenance had to come and chip it off. Till I'm never going back to a hotel. Once when I was about 2 or 3, my family was staying in this hotel. The hotel wasn't the classiest hotel. So my brother and dad are gone and my mom is reading. So I start crawling around on the floor, looking for who knows what. when I stumble upon a piece of newspaper with ashes wrapped in it. I take the ashes and my mom says to put them in my dad's ashtray. You were allowed to smoke here. So later my dad goes to put his cigarette in the tray and bam. It was gunpowder. Not ashes. I go running and crying and hide in the bathroom. We weren't blamed because the last people in the room left them there. TL. DR. I accidentally sent a hotel into a frenzy. My friend works in housekeeping for the only 4-star hotel in our area. She knocks on a door and declares her presence to see if someone is inside a room. No one answers. She opens the door to find an Indian man with his pants off, a laptop open that is on a PRN site, and an open tub of butter. He insisted that she still clean the room. The real kicker was that it wasn't the hotel's brand of butter. He brought his own stash to Jack with.